I got a package from Mightyguy Comics the other day. This is it right here, the box that it came in, that priority mail. And these are all the comics that I got. About 33 comics. And I'll just run through them real quick here. This is Ultra Klutz, number 10, featuring Mightyguy. And I really wanted to get some of Tim Corrigan's Mightyguy comics. That was the main impetus for me to get an order of from Mightygui's eBay store. And these are some of the issues from the 1980s. You can see they're just two colors, and on the inside they're in black and white. Letter pages in here, so this is a letter from T.M. Maple, the famous letter hack. And just black and white stories inside. Here's a story by Steve Keeter and Don Martinek. There's a parody of Larry Blake's Night Star character. And some ads for more comics that Tim Corrigan was putting out back in the 1980s. C&T Graphics was his company. Speaking of T.M. Maple, there was a character here named Captain Optimist, who was a superhero that was created by T.M. Maple and artist Alan Freeman. And the story was written by T.M. Maple and drawn by Alan Freeman. And so there was more comics like that. I got a bunch of them. They were like $1 each. The Diggers by Steve Keeter and Tim Corrigan. The Final Man by Russ Maharis and Tim Corrigan. Kalani, Daughter of the Dawn, drawn by Donnie Jupiter. Zarkasm. All sorts of stuff here. The Small Press Comics Explosion number 8 from January 1987. This was like a comic buyer's guide for small press comics back then. And as you can see, it's just all text. Real tiny text with lots of ads. All sorts of small press stuff. You know, there's lots of reviews. You know, stuff you'll never see. You know, these days, probably if you try to get all this stuff now, it'd be very difficult. And you can see here's a ad for Sherman Burnett's Aliens number 1. That's one of his Energon's characters he's still doing. And there's an ad for a comic Rick Howe was doing, the late Rick Howe. There's an article on Alan Freeman in here, or it's actually an interview with him. There's also an article in here on Jim Maine, written by Steve Keeter, talking about Jim Maine's career. Anyway, so that's some of the stuff I got. There's a bit more here, and we'll go through that in a sec. Mr. Jigsaw was a character by Gary Cato, and this comic came out in the 1980s. And one weird thing about it is it's all done on blue paper, which is kind of strange. I'm not sure I know what to make of that. It kind of makes it a little dark, kind of makes me wish he had done it in white paper. But Gary Cato had still has a very Ditko-esque style. And, coincidentally enough, I got some Ditko comics here. This is a 3D comic. Actually, Ditko just drew the cover, but the inside is by Jack C. Harris and Kurt Schaffenberger. And this is what a 3D comic looks like, if you ever wondered. And the glasses are in here. You just pull that out and stick them on your eyes. This also here was one of the early appearances of The Rocketeer in Pacific Presents number 1 from 1982. But the main reason I got it was because of the Ditko story in the back here. The Missing Man. I already have it in the black and white version, but I wanted to get the color version just the same. Missing Man being a very odd Ditko character. There's a Rocketeer on the back cover. And Cerebus Jam. I never even knew about this comic, but it's got a lot of neat short stories where Dave Sims' Cerebus is drawn by other... Actually, he draws the Cerebus character, and he teams up with other comics creators like Will Eisner's Spirit. Reprint of Cerebus number 7, just filling some holes in my collection. Cerebus number 45. Most of these issues were just $1 each. This is the Sideways issue of Cerebus. You fold it, you hold it like that, that's how you read it instead of the other way. Let's see here, Nexus number 2, or no, Nexus number 3. This is a black and white magazine, the Capital Comics. It was before Nexus became a color comic, back when Steve Rude was just starting out. And this is a flexidisc that comes in the comic when you play that on your record player. Let's see, what else do I get here? Eclipse Magazine, number 7. Trekker, number 6. Comic Scene. This is one of the very first fanzines I ever bought back in 1983 when I was like 13 years old. And I no longer have it, and I wanted to get it. Comics Collector was another one I followed back when I was a kid. These were issues I never had, but I need to get them now. And some Doctor Who magazines. These were all $1 each. Tom Baker. This was around $1 each. Friend, these were actually imports from England. Those issues, DW being the frame. I had to get more of them. And speaking of England, these are 2 British comics. 2 consecutive issues of Battle Action from around 1978. And here's another one that's kind of interesting, Victor. The front cover is in color, and the story continues on the back cover, which is also in color. So it's just a 2-page story. Now, looking at this cover, you'd think this would be like a war comic. Turn the first page, first story, is a science fiction comic, Hork, the Hunter. And all these little stories are like around 3 or 4 pages long. And there's all sorts of different stuff in here. None of the artists are credited. This has a kind of red tint to it. This one was most interesting to me, The Sasquatch Walks. It's a story about Sasquatch. It's just a little 3-page story. And at the end there it says, will the Sasquatch attack? Find out next week. These issues came out every week in England. And, I don't know anything about these comics, but so it's really interesting to explore them. This was $1.50 or less than that. Anyways, that's it. That's the stuff I got from Mile High this week.